This month our theme for the Sunday talks has been the way of peace. And I've been using materials from the Alliance for Global New Thought in their annual celebration of the season for nonviolence. Today, however, we're going to go local. Local in the sense that we're addressing the way of peace right here at home in the islands, on Big Island, and in South and North Kohala. So I've chosen for today's talk the topic, what does peace look like to you? And in fact, many of you were asked that very question earlier this month and asked if you would write it down for us so that it could be posted on our Season for Nonviolence display in the Waimea Library that's been there all this past month. Well, you did. And so did other members of both the Waikoloa and the Waimea community. And we posted as many as we could, along with quotes from worldwide activists in support of peace down through the ages. Some of them very current and some of them very ancient and everything in between, starting in the middle again. So it's not a new concept, It's always been with us, the concept of peace. Sometimes misinterpreted as in fighting for peace, which is a classic oxymoron. Sometimes in hoping for peace, which is a static statement wishing someone else, somewhere else, would do it and deliver it to our door like a FedEx package. And sometimes by trying to eliminate everyone who doesn't interpret the word peace the same way I do, or you do, or. So during this past month, I've brought you some examples of how ordinary individuals and communities throughout our country have been expressing and addressing this by talking and listening to each other, by actually addressing each other face to face, looking in each other's eyes, learning about the composite being who looks and talks, who looks and then talks with them. Because as inspiring as it is to listen and repeat the quotes of some famous way showers down through the history, the real experience of practicing peace begins with actually addressing each other face to face, looking in each other's eyes, learning about the composite being who looks and talks with you. So now I want to go local, and I want to talk about what we're doing right here, right now. For those of you who have visited that display up in Waimea, this may be repetitive for you, so bear with me. And it may be a moment of pride for you, too, when you hear your quote in the information that I'm about to share. Each week, in addition to those quotes that are already up on the bulletin board on display, Tina used some of the quotes to make up affirmation cards, as you saw earlier and heard in our affirmation for the day. Made up those affirmations, put them in a basket like we did down at the Christmas tree in Monolani, if you remember, over the Christmas season, so that folks visiting the library could take home a reminder to think peace. Affirmations like the one we said earlier. Today I declare the oneness of all peace begins with me, right here, right now. And another, I listen carefully to others, especially to those who disagree with me. I consider others' feelings and needs rather than insist on having my own way. And then still another, I fully embody and express peace, living through me in every moment. And then here's one that's unforgettable. I must be the change I wish to see. So few words, such a powerful message. One of the things I really enjoyed as I read through these was that every one of them began with the word I. Not you, not they, not somebody else, but the understanding that we get it. We know where peace begins. It begins right here, right now. There were a number of other quotes who finished the sentence, "What does peace look like to you?" So preface that with each of these as I mention it to you. What does peace look like to you? A smile and a handshake. How about dialogue instead of ranting? Treat all as you wish to be treated. What does peace look like to you? It looks like responses to situations and conditions that come from a place of stillness. A willingness to listen to others who have different points of view. Allow people to have his or her own experience. Seeking to come to consensus that can work for all. Peace is nonviolence in energy, word, and action. Let it always be so. A world where everybody feels safe. What does peace look like to you? It looks like happiness and joy. It looks like acceptance and love. Peace equals safe. No harm. And then I've got a really long one that I actually printed out after I took a picture of it that I want to read to you because it's pretty good. My perspective or picture of peace would be a garden with persons of every color and every nationality, all speaking, listening, and absorbing the unique differences that make us one. A world where there are no homeless children living in cars and going through dumpsters for foods that have been discarded, unwanted, and overabundant. To care about our fellow men, I would love to live long enough to see grace and respect for all. Really thoughtful. And then, let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. So, now we've begun this program in South Kohala and North Kohala on this end of the island, and we're pleased that so many people have joined us already. As you can see, we got a lot of response from this. Now I'd like to share with you a concept that AGNT, the Alliance for Global New Thought, offers us for the future. So as we take our growing peace, local peace program to a broader action, we're still supported with ideas. We can always go to that website, the Season for Nonviolence, and find support in the way of information, in the way of individuals to contact, in the way of quotes from those who have already addressed these things, a great deal of assistance at a level that we can operate locally and be in step with the philosophy that we have regarding peace. This is rather lengthy, and I'm going to touch on as much of it as I can during this hour. There's more to come as time unfolds and we go into these ideas to a greater degree. But this program that Season for Nonviolence has been working on is called spiritual activism. And the definition is a term proposed by the Association for Global New Thought and and other like-minded organizations to describe individuals who are spiritually based, but also believe we need to take action in the world to create positive change. Spiritual activism is spirit and love put into action, and prayer made visible. This, as I said, is relatively lengthy, so I'm going to hit the highlights on it, and we'll continue to refer to it, particularly when we go back and check in on how we're doing. So to begin with, the quote, "Our goal is to create a beloved community," and this is from Martin Luther King. If we really want to create a more compassionate and loving world, we first need to become more loving and compassionate ourselves. We need a new vision of a society governed by love, where compassion is the high standard. Conflict between individuals, groups, and nations must be steeped in understanding and trust. Negative, fearful, angry thoughts fuel rhetoric from opposing sides that invariably leads to alienation and must change to conscious communication, producing sincere interactions that will aid us in resolving our differences. So the last line there, the closer, if you will, is resolving our differences. Not necessarily eliminating them, and certainly not condemning them, but finding the middle path and the peaceful way. So first of all, and we start with a bang, get your attention, may raise your blood pressure, stay calm. Love those with whom you are in conflict. Love those with whom you are in conflict. And this is a real challenge for many of us. Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself and love your enemy. But how do we love individuals with whom we are in conflict? So first of all, we need to love, forgive, and accept ourselves, don't we? Before we feel good enough to love our neighbors and even our enemies. We can fill our consciousness with love. A mind full of love can't hold fear and anger at the same time it holds love, because that's the way our mind works. It's on one concept or another at a time. And often we hear people say, this is just too hard. I can't get my mind off that long enough to focus on that. And then I tell them the story of the dog that was hit by the car. Do you remember that story? Everybody remember that story? Okay. Some people got a new dog. And the dog was ambitious and active and always trying to do things that weren't safe for the dog to do. So one day the dog ran out into the street and was hit by a car. Now, I'd like you to just close your eyes and visualize that dog. Okay? Now what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to turn your attention to a bush with green leaves and buds on it. And those buds are rosebuds, and they're red rosebuds. And one of them, as you put your attention on it, is beginning to open. So in your mind's eye, you can see that red rosebud opening into a fully extended rose. Got that? Can you see that? Okay, open your eyes. How did you do that? How did you take your attention off what was clearly a painful experience, which you were having in your mind's eye, and put it on the opening of a red rose? How did you do that? We don't know how you do that. We only know that you do that you have the ability, you have the capacity, you have the power to shift from a negative to a positive. So I would urge you, when you are grappling with something, to close your eyes for a moment and bring that red rose back into your mind's eyes consciousness. Because that's how we turn our minds away from anger and fear to love. If you'd like that red rosebud to be your love symbol while you're practicing this, why not? It's your practice. You may have something else that you'd rather use instead, but the idea is to shift from the negative to the positive. And you've just done that. You've had that experience. You know you can. And you know that it happens. So a part of this love those with whom we are in conflict has to do with performing a small, loving act toward an adversary. It's a great practice. It's kind of along the lines of the parking place. It's easy to have just one small, loving thought about an adversary. And you get to pick the adversary. And then continue to love and act with compassion even when you are feeling rejected or offended. You might find that one a little more challenging than having one small active, loving action toward an adversary. Continue to love and act with compassion, even if you feel rejected or offended. Why? Because it's not about the other person, is it? It's about ourselves. And when we feel love, when we are love, rejection and offense has nothing to do with it. And then to look for things of value and appreciate, look for things that you can value and appreciate about others. Try seeing something that they've done as a blessing. Listen to see and hear what they have to say. Look for even a grain of truth in their logic and their comments. Be compassionate for their needs and their circumstances. Most people believe they're doing the best they can, and the truth is, we're all doing the best we can in every moment. So part of that is knowing that our adversaries are expressing what are in the current moment their highest and best qualities. And then to know that all is well and that all continues to be well. So the next thing I want to talk about is, along this path, is that we're all spiritual beings. And we talk about that every Sunday. We talk about that on Tuesday morning and Wednesday night. We talk about that in midweek. We talk about that all the time, don't we? Why do we say that? Well, to be honest with you, Meister Eckhart, many, many years ago, said it this way. He said, acknowledge God in all things, because God is in all things. Every creature is full of God and is a book about God. I've never heard it expressed that way before. Every creature is a book about God. Every creature is a word of God. So what we're talking about here is that it's within us, and it's coming out at the level of our understanding of it. And then following up with this, we are all connected and part of the web of light. An Indian chief once said, "The earth belongs to all of us, even to our unborn children." The earth belongs to all of us. Well, we certainly know that we are all energy beings, and we're all vibrating at different frequencies, and that our energy fields connect with and influence one another. We all know that every planet, including this one, is an orb of energy from within and receiving, giving and receiving. Why wouldn't we be? Why wouldn't every living thing be? And the answer is, it all is. It's all God. And then the next recommendation here, things that we can do, that we can bring in locally, even as it's being prescribed as activism globally, is to pray. Well, duh. Prayer is powerful. We know that. Prayer is effective. We know that. So do we use it as a lead-in to all of our actions? As a beginning? We could. We can. We can even make that commitment to ourselves. I begin each day in prayer. I end each day in prayer. That's really the beginning of the night, isn't it? The sleep period. What a wonderful time to speak your word in prayer, just as you're going to rest for some time. As the day is passing into night, there's prayer for that change. Doesn't have to be lengthy, doesn't have to be verbose. Just an acknowledgement and an awareness for peaceful rest, for patience, for the intelligence to do the work that you're facing in the morning, for the wisdom to say and do the right thing. When you stop to think of it, it's really easy, isn't it? It's maybe 5 sentences. God is, I am, I choose, thank you, bye-bye. Or aloha. And once we get into that habit for ourselves, then we can begin to pray for our adversaries. You see, and this is coming from outside science of mind and the things that we teach on a daily basis. But listen to these words and see if they sound familiar. Holding negative thoughts about our leaders or adversaries is counterproductive. It leads to polarization and alienation. Pray for their well-being. Pray for guidance. Pray for a positive resolution of any differences between us. You don't hear anything about telling them what to do. Pray for the highest and best good, which is way more encompassing than what I think anyone else should do on any given day. Because that's to the level of my understanding, which means, and my limitations. So we can pray to hold an intention for an expected outcome in a win-win situation. We talk about that all the time, don't we? That when we do spiritual mind treatment, we do that with the concept of a win-win. That everyone who is involved in that action, if it's more than me, also wins. That provides the highest and best benefit for everyone concerned. For everyone concerned. That's big. And every one of you who does spiritual mind treatment is up to that challenge. Next item on the list. We're conscious beings. We're all part of a collective universal consciousness. We know that. That's 101. We talk about that constantly. As such, though, our positive thoughts and our positive intentions have a beneficial effect on all life forms. I'm not even going to give you the flip side of that. Instead, I'm going to say, focus on that. And the flip side dissipates for lack of attention. Our positive thoughts and intentions have a beneficial impact on all life forms. And if you don't believe that, go back and read page 52 for the 150th time at least. Okay, I'll pick up on this later, but what I do want to say to you about this incredible list that they have provided for us is that the last item on the list, which is number 16, and I just gave you number 5. Number 16 says, we are all one with God, with each other, and with all life. In this oneness, may we love each other, love one another, and be of service. And so it is.
And so it is.
Thank you.